F is for friends that do things together.
There you is for you and me.
And it's for anywhere and anything at all right here in the deep blue sea.
What are we?
Friends, which transitions nicely into today's episode, which is going to be about friendship and when that role sometimes gets conflated or mixed with the role of someone who is helping provide care. Hi, you're listening to The Obvious Question. I'm Becky Smith, and I walk.
And I'm Madi Lawson, and I roll.
Walk and roll.
Ha, walk and roll. Let's walk and roll.
You've told me some pretty funny stories about people congratulating your friends for like being such good people. Yeah, I know you've experienced this quite a few times with your friend Jessie.
Yeah, no, people just are like, oh my gosh, so nice of you to like be friends with her. People ask often like, so why are you guys friends? And Jessie's just kind of like, you know, we really bonded over our mutual love of sitting. It's a stupid answer because that's a really stupid question, because anyone who knows anything about either of us would definitely pair us together as friends. So it's just stupid that people have assumptions that people that have disabilities can't have friends. I mean, like, I can't go to a restaurant with people without getting asked, oh, is that your sister? Even friends that look nothing like me. I don't know why people just can't fathom that idea. Like, I must be a really shitty person. Like,
I feel like if anyone even knew like our friendship or knew us, they would, instead of congratulating me for being your friend, either apologize to you for having to be mine, or they would talk to you about what a good person you were to be my friend.
I am a
like,
good
I feel like if
person
people really knew
for
us.
being your friend.
I mean, true. Like, growing up, my dad always used to like jokingly thank my friends for not telling me about the $20 he slipped them to be my friend.
Yeah, that's really funny though, because like, since I do have friends that are also caregivers and that role is kind of intertwined, anytime we like fight, I'm like, it's fine, I pay them to be my friend anyway. Because I low-key do. It's fine.
Well, so but you bring this up, this role of PCA or personal care attendant and friends. And because of where we live, a lot of the people who fill that role for you currently are people who are your friends or you have previous relationships with. How would you say, like, what are the complications of those roles overlapping?
Personal care is definitely a complex relationship because as a person getting care, they want to make me happy and doing the care that I need. But at the same time, I want to make them happy because it's miserable to get taken care of by someone who obviously doesn't want to do it. And so I've been fortunate enough to have people in my life that very much so are eager to help and are giving me their best that they can. But also part of that relationship is accepting when people's best sometimes isn't always the best. It's just the best that they have to offer at that time, and just understanding that, you know, people are people, and just kind of juggling that role of being a friend and also like being the boss of my body and the boss of how I get taken care of.
Yeah.
It's a toss up. It's a constant compromise, but it's the best compromise.
So now we're going to hear from your roommates, Tanisha and Haley. You guys have lived together for a while at this point, and you can tell that you guys are very close. You kind of all talk at one time, and you're just like very giggly and like honestly full of joy. You can tell that you guys are really close friends.
Imagine living with us.
I can't. But this is kind of what happens. This interview is kind of what happens when you set three close friends loose in a recording booth. Let's give it a listen.
Okay, so Tanisha, I remember when we first met, you were like super quiet, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if she's scared of me? And I was like, I'm scary. But then you just like have always been super sweet. We're like the same human, just in two different bodies. Mm-hmm. You're like the able-bodied version of me. And then Haley, she's kind of exactly who I thought she was.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I met you and you were just like bubbly and energetic, fun, and I was just like, I'm gonna like her.
I'm glad I'm not the opposite. Where I'm like bubbly, energetic at first, and then just like awful
and then
afterwards.
I
Let down.
met the real you, and I was like, oh. I was nervous because you guys are like little baby freshmen, and I was like, what if they're gonna be annoying or something?
Mm-hmm.
But you're not, and you keep me young with all the Vine knowledge. Okay, describe what a typical day living with me is like.
She's usually giddy in the morning and I'm like not, so she's like, oh my god, like yes, like cracking jokes, and I'm like, can you just stop talking for 5 minutes? Like, I don't know why you're so happy right now. It's dark outside.
Tonisha's kind of like taken on the role of caregiver as well, just because I've had some difficulty lately maintaining a staffed nurse. So Tonisha's kind of stepped up, and Haley stepped up too and like helped me before.
Oh,
with,
definitely
like, showering
Tanisha
and
way
stuff.
more. Like she's I was gonna say this would be two different perspectives, because you're always with Maddie, like always taking care of her, and I think that's like so awesome. Like I wish I could do it more. I'm just whatever. I'm never around, or just you're already like, I'll get home and you're already like taken care of. I'm like, okay. But so your day is probably so much different than mine. You and Tanisha will be like helping you shower, and like I just walk in, we'll kind of like talk. She's showering you, and then like all this kind of stuff, do your hair, all this stuff. That's obviously not something normal. Like you don't come home to your roommates to see one of them showering the other one on the daily.
Unless they're drunk.
Yeah,
but,
unless
like,
they're drunk.
Yeah,
but,
that too.
but like I just think that that's kind of like, that's so normal that not a lot of people get to experience.
What about people's public reactions to me?
I know, I like, when we first started going out, I noticed how many people stared at you all the time. And at first I was like, okay, this is weird. But then I was like, she probably deals with this all the time. And then I started getting angry about it, because I was like,
Same.
stop staring. You're only staring at her because she's in a wheelchair. And it made me really mad. But then I was like, it's not really my place to be mad, because like you've had to deal with that your whole life. And I've been with you, for like a semester now, and I'm getting angry over that. And then I kind of like, they're staring at you because you're in a wheelchair, but they're seeing like how much we're laughing and smiling, how we're such like an oddball group going about our business. Mm-hmm. Like I hope that they see it in that way rather than just like staring at you.
Right,
Like,
so it's more of like a teachable moment than like a pitiful stare.
I do also feel weird about when people always come up to you and they're just like, you're so pretty, like you're so, because don't get me wrong, I definitely think you're pretty, but I don't know, I just think it's like strange.
Well, I think it can be strange because you don't typically go out of your way to say those things to an able-bodied person.
Yeah.
And I think you don't see disability when you look at me anymore. I mean, like you do, but it's redefined for you. Mm-hmm. And they don't see that. And so you're like, they're looking at her like this, and that's not what she is.
Sometimes I'm like, question like the motives of why they're saying that to you, but then at the same time I think it's nice because they were obviously like thinking about it, and I like it because I think people should be able to say kind things to people more freely, but I question like why they're saying it to you specifically, and I don't like love that.
Yeah, like I like definitely agree with that, because there'll be times we're like out and like we're both like all done up, but like they make sure to go out of their way to come up to her and make sure like they compliment her.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about like a situation where a guy came up to you and was just overly saying like that, and you were like, he probably went home to his wife and was like, well, I'm going to heaven, like, oh, I just did this good deed. I don't know, that just makes me...
I feel like sometimes people are just really uncomfortable and they don't exactly know what to say, and silence makes them feel uncomfortable, so they're like, I have to say something, I'm just gonna say whatever comes to my mind no matter what comes out of my mouth. So I feel like maybe that could be like a motive.
Yeah.
You guys talked about like staring and stuff. Yeah, like I notice when people stare, but I don't notice it the way I used to. Like I remember when I first was in a wheelchair, I hated going in public because I was like, everyone's looking at me, like, why are you looking at me? Like, this is uncomfortable. But then the way that I kind of was like raised with it was, hey, like they're looking at you because you're a princess. And so I just like looked at it like that, because I think if I took the time to like be offended every time someone stared at me, I think I would always be in like a bitchy mood. Don't want to do that, but yeah, like I definitely question people's motives. I don't know, especially on days where I'm like, I am not cute today, like I know, I'm scrubbing it.
Girl,
That's so funny. No, I literally think people do sometimes stare at you because you're a princess, because, and I'm saying that because whenever I'm like with people and I mention my roommates and I mention something that's not normal or whatever, I'm like, oh, well, one of my roommates in a wheelchair. They're like, is it the girl with the fur? the really cool wheelchair. I'm like, yeah, Glimmertron, like all this stuff. They're like, that's so cool. Some people have been like, I've tried to pet it before. I'm like, what?
No, that literally happens. People come up to me, they're like, can I pet your wheelchair? And I'm like, I guess so. Like,
So that's the thing. Like, and I'm like, you see people that are in wheelchairs around here. Whenever I say that, they know it's you because you're like a princess, you know, like that kind of thing. They like notice
Local
you for a
legends.
reason. So, yeah, people do stare at you because you're a princess.
So we just heard from your roommates,
mm-hmm.
Haley and Tanisha. But now we're going to talk about your true boo thing.
Jessie is my whole heart. She's the sun, moon, and all the stars in my universe.
I'm trying not to get jealous over here.
I don't know. I've never felt so destined to meet somebody in my entire life.
So you and Jessie met your freshman year?
My freshman year, yeah.
She actually came to help you with your PCAing. So it's actually really interesting how you guys met through that more caretaker role and then have blossomed into this overwhelming and entirely encompassing love.
Originally, she was only supposed to help me for about 2 weeks, and she was giving me a shower one day and quoted Devil Wears Prada, and I looked at her and I was like, did you just quote Devil Wears Prada? And she's like, yeah, like that's what brought me here. And I'm like, literally me, like I want to do magazine. And like we found out we were the same major and we were just the same person. And I always call her the walking version of me. So yeah, like after those 2 weeks were over, like she just never left. She would literally do anything for me, and like I just love her.
I love Maddie and would literally do anything for her. Outrageous things. I would go to great lengths to do anything for her. And she would for me, definitely, too. Like, she would do anything for me. And we do stuff for each other all the time, obviously. I would kill someone for her, probably. But now I can't say that, because now if anything happens, like, I'm going to be a suspect in a murder or something. So strike that, or, like, just kidding. But no, like, on the real, like, I would kill someone for her. I didn't really ever feel uncomfortable taking care of her for the 2 weeks. Like, I thought that I might, since I was, you know, directly having to, like, bathe and change a full-grown woman, and that was never anything, obviously, I had to do before, and I didn't have any younger siblings, so I never really took care of anyone. And after the 2 weeks were over, it was, like, I guess I want to say that was a no-brainer, too, but I guess most of the things with me and Maddie just like fall into place, and I guess it's hard for me to explain, but it just like works and it just clicks. It was just like, well, of course I'll stay, and here we are. Taking care of Maddie isn't something that I have ever seen as a job or a responsibility I didn't do. I just saw it as something that I just do, and it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel like a responsibility. It just is. There's not really words for what I feel for her, and I know that's not very articulate on my part, but I've tried to think of it in words before for other interviews and how I feel about her. And I don't know if everyone like feels this way about someone like else. In general, it's just who she is. I guess I would want her to know that she doesn't hold me back in any kind of way, and I know that she sometimes thinks that she does, and that I don't get to do certain things or go places or whatever because I have to take care of her. But at the end of the day, like, I would much rather take care of her than do any of those things. I don't want her to feel guilty that I have to take care of her, because I know in a second that Maddie is the last person that would want someone to take care of her. I can't even imagine letting someone take care of me, like, in the ways that she has to be taken care of. I know that she feels guilty because I do give so much of myself to her, but at the same time, I can't imagine being me, like, without her anymore. It really wasn't until I met Maddie in person for the first time that I knew we would be like best friends. And I had never personally interacted on a personal level with someone who had MD or SMA. In my high school, like, people with disabilities were completely separated from other students. And like, looking back now, that was such a disservice to all of us. And I know that Madi sometimes was like separated from other students in high school as well. And it gives people the misconception that people in wheelchairs are also mentally disabled as well, which obviously not. Those are completely different. But able-bodied people are so miseducated about people with disabilities. Personally, I was too, which now, like, looking back, I can't believe how much I didn't know before meeting Madi and how much I know now. And I never saw myself becoming such a strong advocate for people with disabilities before meeting Madi. And that's also just kind of shitty, because you shouldn't have to meet and fall in love with a person just to want to fight for them to have the same rights that you do.
Special thanks to the Whole Obvious Question team. Today's episode was produced by Hannah Haynes, edited by Ryan Famuliner, online support came from Nathan Lawrence, and the episode was executively produced by our fellow Taco Bell enthusiast, Aaron Hay. This has been The Obvious Question. I'm Becky Smith.
And I'm Maddie Lawson.
Thanks for listening.